Stand for the pledge. Mrs. Weibel, our Vice President, will lead us.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. We'll begin our meeting with a presentation, Mr. Shaker. We have two.
Yep, we're going to start with Mr. Decker, who is going to discuss the upcoming music trip to New York City.
Okay, so at the beginning of the year, I think everybody has one, right? Yeah. Okay, at the beginning of the year, we gave the kids, I don't know, do they need to see me? Okay, at the beginning of the year, we gave the kids two choices, Boston, which was the cheaper option, and probably cleaner option, and New York City, and they voted for New York. Again, this is we usually go every other year, so I'm working with a different company. In the past, we've done Student Tours International, which they've been able to give us good prices, but they're not the most organized. And so we tried Four Winds, which is another educational group, and they're right in Syosset, so they're right here in New York, and they've been extremely prompt with their emails, which is pretty impressive. So the itinerary in front of you is pretty much now set in stone. Friday, May 23rd, we'll be leaving, and then we'll come back Saturday evening. On day one, the plan is to take the bus down, drop us off at Bryant Park, and we're going to walk over to Rockefeller, just a few blocks away, and tour the NBC studios and do the Top of the Rock observation deck tour as well in that. And then after that, we're going to do the Spirit of New York cruise, which goes down it goes down the Hudson around, the lower Manhattan, and then it goes up the East River, turns around, goes back, goes out around Ellis Island, Statue of Liberty, and stops at the statue actually. And they like the statue actually. The statue's always lit, but they play music for the kids. It's kind of like it's an educational tour, but there's also music on board. So when we're not passing stuff, the kids can dance and stuff like that. So they like that. And then we'll go back to the hotel. And then on day two, we're going to go take the ferry to Battery Park so they can have a tour of the Statue of Liberty, because Stephanie and I haven't taken the kids there in a long time. So we'll take a tour of the Statue of Liberty. After that, we will go up to Times Square and for lunch, and the kids will have a small amount of free time, and then we're going to see Wicked on Broadway. And then we'll hop on the bus and come back. That's our loose itinerary. The pricing on the back is price per student. It says is $676, but because it's an educational and it fits our art standards, most of it, a large portion of that actually is aidable through the COSER. So I was just emailing with the person, and he gave me an itemized list. He said everything that's aidable would come to $468 per student is aidable. So I think we generally say 70% is what our aid ratio is through the COSER. So 468, 70% of that. So that's $327 of it that will be covered through the COSER. So basically take, half of that is what it's actually going to end up costing each student and their parents. So $370-ish is what it'll cost to do all of that, which is incredible. The transportation, lodging, and food is not aidable, but everything else will be covered under the Arts and Education COSER. So the way that'll work is, I talked to Charlie about it. Basically, the district will kind of put the bill on it. The parents will pay the balance of everything that is owed, and then when they release the aid on it, the district would just get all of that back as aid, which is the way it worked 2 years ago, I guess, when we went on the trip. So that's our plan. I don't know if you have any questions. We do pay for hotel security because I like there to be somebody in the hall. We used to do the tape on the doors, which we still do, but it's much easier when you actually have somebody in the hall making sure that the kids stay in their rooms like they're supposed to. I think you guys do that too, don't you? Yeah. So, but that's the rough trip. some of the kids are very excited. A couple of kids wanted to go to Boston and they're not as excited, but can't please everybody. So we're going to take 48 students plus 5 chaperones. That's what we're shooting for. So it'll leave us a couple extra seats on the bus.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Decker?
Are you using Hale Transportation out of Clinton?
Yes. I told them that we have a good working relationship with them, so the more that we can, you know, support our local people too.
So I'm just curious, do
Sure.
you see representatives of Four Winds at any time? Or is that just something they do
They do all the planning. They send me all the tickets and all of the stuff. And unless we could physically pay for somebody to be our guide for the weekend, but Stephanie and I have taken enough trips with the kids that we kind of have it down to a science, but no, I mean, they just do all of the booking. Like they already have reserved the hotel rooms in New Jersey. They've reserved the tickets. They've reserved the transportation. Everything's already done. So I basically just gave them a list of stuff we wanted to do. They came up with the itinerary, and it would be cheaper, obviously, if I planned it myself, but it's a lot of time. I don't have the network to be, you know, I tell Hale every time we do this, she said, you guys should start this. Like you should plan trips for schools so that, you know, because I'm sure there's good money in planning the trips, but.
And the kids could use their fundraising money as well.
Correct. So I know right now there's 13 students in choir that are completely paid for. They're completely funded 100%. 13 of them. And then there's another 12, I think, that have more than half of it covered. I don't know about the band, but there were a couple freshmen this year that sold over $1,000 worth of stuff in our first fundraiser. I was like, holy smokes, that's over $300 of profit that you just made already. So your trip's covered. Some are pretty, I'm not a fundraiser. I don't like going there. So that's what we're planning. And hopefully we just, you know, pray for good weather because it can get miserable on the water when it's raining. It's a little rough, but
That's great.
yeah. So that's our plan. If you've got questions, let me know.
Is that Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah, we usually do it just because we know we're not impacting any other school stuff. And they always have Monday off to recoup, and so, yep.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Mr. Calvin, I don't know if you want to speak very quickly about an audio audit, and if not, I will just introduce our presenter here.
You go right ahead, Mr. Staten.
Okay, from the, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name, Bonadio Group.
Bonadio, there you go.
All right. Now Bonadio's company, so Bonadio.
Hey, so I'll go over here. Hey, Charlie. Some bad things about Charlie, he's not here.
We can mute our mic and talk about it. Perfect.
Okay, so I'll walk you through a quick presentation of what we did, the results of what we did, some financial highlights, and then answer any questions you might have. And I know you just got the drafts today, so as you go through those and you have more questions, you know, Charlie certainly knows how to get hold of me. So on the first page, table of contents, we did an audit of your financial statements. We did an audit of your federal awards, which is the uniform guidance audit. And we did an audit of your extra classroom activity funds. So in part A, we'll talk about that audit of the financial statements. Assuming you approve those financial statements, we'll have an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion on those financial statements. Again, highest level of assurance I can give you. I will remind you that they're your financial statements, they're not mine. I help put them together, but my job is simply to give an opinion on those. That audit was performed under government auditing standards, and that's a little bit higher level. Requires us to get some extra CPE during the year, and it requires some additional reporting all the way down to what we would deem abuse. So if we find something that is not necessarily material to these financial statements, but is clearly abusive, not in the best interest of the district, we would be reporting that to you. Required communication, so I have to tell you about some of your estimates, useful life capital assets, your estimates, compensated absences. Your net pension liability is calculated by actuaries in New York State. They provide the numbers to us, we just make sure they're reasonable. Your other post-employment benefit obligations, your retiree health, we'll talk about that in a second. Again, calculated by actuaries. We drop those into the statements. There's many pages describing what the assumptions are that went into those. I don't recommend reading them, but if you're really interested in going to sleep, then by all means, look at those footnotes. More required communications. These are big ones right here. These first two bullets on the next page. No proposed audit adjustments and no unadjusted differences. So we really found nothing wrong with all of our testing. The numbers you looked at during the year are the numbers that appeared in these financial statements. So that's key. Charlie's doing a great job. That being said, no significant difficulties encountered in performing the audit. All the information was available and easy for us to get through. No disagreements with management. And we don't think Charlie consulted with anyone else questioning what we were saying. Moving on to the financial statement highlights. So again, that first bullet is a big one. That's the retiree health, $52.8 million. Obviously a giant number. Up about $1 million from last year. Most of that is based on projecting healthcare costs. Not a lot you can control there. As I've said in the past, New York State does not allow you to fund this liability. So that's why it gets so big. As opposed to ERS and TRS, your pension liabilities, there are assets set aside for those two. That being said, those two pension liabilities went down, both of them by about $300,000 for the year, largely based on market values of those assets at the time the valuation was done. So again, this is a snapshot in time. Those market value of those assets could drop, and those numbers flip around, and your pension liabilities will go back up again next year if that happens. So the thing to sort of track is the contributions. The contributions generally stay level, but are based again on those market valuations. So there is a lot of information on those, including the 3-year contributions in the footnote. So you can kind of see where that goes for budgeting purposes. Also capital assets. So you'll see capital assets went up quite a bit. You've done some construction here. You have some construction in progress, largely based on that, offset by depreciation. Depreciation really doesn't matter to you, but we're required to book it for accounting standards. No new bonds this year. Some detail on that in the back of your footnotes, so you can look at those maturities. Again, pretty helpful for budgeting purposes. Okay, on to what happened in the gen fund, the operating fund of the district. This is where we spend the bulk of our time during the audit. You had a good year. Fund balance went up by almost 500,000. You actually budgeted to use fund balance of about 800,000. So about a $1.3 million swing there. Couple reasons for that. Investment earnings for one. You budgeted 212,000. You actually ended up with 357,000. Again, interest rates are up. You guys are really only allowed to, let's call it savings accounts with interest. There's no real investments, no crazy stock market deals or anything like that. That's why you usually don't see a lot of earnings in this particular category. But right now, you're probably about as high as you're going to get with that. Expenditures, we've said this for the past couple of years, employee benefits, we keep seeing budgetary surpluses there. Those costs, we do expect to go up, but they've basically gone up a little slower than we would have predicted. And obviously, you know, when you do your budget, you have to be somewhat conservative and aware that those costs are going to go up at some point, they just haven't yet. And then the other one is programs with students with handicapping conditions. You had a budgetary surplus of 200,000 this year. I always say, and I just did a district last night, said the same thing, they had a big surplus, but usually we see the opposite. Kids move into the district that have special needs, it's really hard to budget for, and then those costs, you know, generally shoot up. In this particular case, you know, went in the right direction. So a lot of things moving in the right direction. Your reserves are in a really good place. You had that budgetary variance, which allowed you to continue to add to those reserves. Going forward, the federal funds that we've seen, and we'll talk about the program we audited, are basically we're at the end of that for the ed stabilization program that we've seen a lot of dollars come through for the last couple of years. So keep that in mind. Your federal funds are going to go down. Hard to predict what's going to happen with your state funds. They've been up again the last couple of years. The state's also gotten a lot of federal money. So not to be doom and gloom, but I think going forward, the budget's going to get a little bit tighter than it has been the last couple of years. Any questions about the numbers?
So when you say the total variance is 1.3, does that mean the difference between what we anticipated spending and what we actually did?
Yeah, so let's call it your net profit.
Okay.
So you actually budgeted for a loss of 1.3 to use some of your fund balance or your savings account, and you actually added to it.
Okay.
So, you know, you went the other way.
Gotcha. Okay.
You actually had a profit.
Right.
Okay. We don't like to use the word profit with school districts, but
Yeah.
you know, that's the reality. You had more revenues than expected.
Gotcha.
Okay, so last couple of reports, the yellow book, again, this is where we do look at your internal controls. We don't give an opinion on them, but we make sure they're in place and operating as designed. No problems with internal controls. Your uniform guidance report, again, that's your federal awards. We did test that education stabilization program that we don't expect to see next year. We did not have any problems with compliance or internal controls over compliance. And then lastly, ECA, no real issues there. Again, an unmodified opinion on the numbers as they're presented. It's pretty easy to tie those out to bank statements. Not a lot of problems in terms of what we tested. With ECA, I always say students are involved, so we expect to see some exceptions. Programs designed to have students involved as a learning experience. Honestly, if I see that there's no exceptions, I sort of question whether the students were really involved. So we had a few, nothing major, nothing to worry about there. And then lastly, next year, we do have a new accounting pronouncement to put in place relative to your compensated absences. Not expecting a lot of change there. Basically, accumulated leave, we just need to make sure that it's being paid at the proper rates and that leave is not going to be converted into retiree health. So this really some, again, some government accounting. Let's call it mumbo jumbo. Not going to change your numbers a lot, but it'll probably change some of the work that I'll have to do. That's the really high level. And Charlie, did I miss anything? Charlie's good. Any other questions?
So I appreciate the audit, and you say we're in good standing, and so nothing glaring, nothing that we can do better, or should be doing better, or where we need to be.
Yeah, not right now. You know, things are good right now. So the last thing I'll mention, and I think I might have skipped over it. So New York State requires you to be at that 4% of your unassigned fund balance, again, your savings account of next year's budget. You came in a little bit over that, like 4.5%. So again, no one's worried about 0.5%, exactly where you need to be. And again, you did that by moving funds into those reserve accounts, which, don't play into that calculation. So the unassigned is strictly, like I said, that savings account number, meaning you're not just holding on to money without a purpose. You're not overtaxing is what the purpose of that regulation is.
So when you say the 4%, our goal is to not exceed that?
Right.
Okay, and because we did a little bit, that's not anything, okay.
And basically, so I audit 7 or 8 school districts, and the ones that did the planning that you did with Charlie to move things around into the reserve accounts, we're at the 4%. The ones that didn't are significantly over. And I mean, I have one district that's at 27%. I gotta believe that that's gonna, raise some eyebrows in New York State. That's a big number.
Right.
And I think the key is with that is, yeah, everybody knows there's been some additional funding available, but do you have a plan for it? And using the reserves is a good plan for it.
So the district did qualify as a low risk auditee.
Right.
So when that stress list comes out, which we made for a few years, we're not on that list.
Well, that's a little bit different. So that's in New York State Comptroller's office, basically taking your financial statement numbers and looking at things like fund balance, looking at things like cash. That's where that stress number comes from. That low risk auditee means you haven't had findings and you filed your audits on time. Really, honestly, that has more of an effect on my life than your life. If you do end up with findings, and you lose that low risk auditee, or if you were to not file your federal report within 9 months, that would lose the low risk status. I would have to audit double what I audit now. So again, form of punishment for me than you, but it's, we audit more than the requirement now is we have to audit 20% of your funds. The reality is we audit far more, and that program that we audited is most of your funds. Let's put it that way.
Every penny counts, so you have less work. You have to push out less.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cowan.
Charlie, thank you for a great job.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Tony, I can tell you, Tony, that we will not be on the stress susceptible to fiscal stress based upon the results. And we've known that, as the pandemic money's come through and we've had favorable results. It'll take a couple years of bad results for us to get back on such a list. And hopefully we can avoid that, if our budgeting is solid, and we don't have any unexpected expenditures go haywire on us. And you can look back in I think probably 17, 18, 19 years where it was really special education. You could just see those costs escalated by wild percentages. That hasn't happened over the last few, and we've had the financial assistance from the federal monies. So we've been okay. Federal monies are going away. You never know what's going to happen with special education costs. So, there's always an unknown, but for now we're in good shape, according to the comptroller.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
You down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board of Education Subcommittee reports, Mr. Staten.
Sure, yes, the extracurricular activity subcommittee met on October 8th. And we had, in addition to the board members on that committee, we had I'll start with Colleen Luzak. She joined us to talk about art. She detailed the art club in the high school and the potential for the art club to trickle down into the middle and/or elementary school in the future, just to generate additional interest and opportunities for those students. The elementary school is currently working on a presentation for the Veterans Day Assembly. and they're designing reusable bags for the craft fair. And then Ryan Decker joined us as the rep from the music department. And he discussed the elementary all-county event that we will be hosting in April. So that'll fill up many rooms in the high school. We're excited about that venture. The musical this year, I'm sure you all know, it's the Addams Family. Tickets just went on sale last week online. And I believe he said we sold 400 tickets in the first couple of days, right? So they're selling fast. So get yours soon, people. There's a Christmas show in Clinton that music students will participate in. The RFA Show Choir Festival is in January or February. And I will tell you that's one of my favorite events. I never experienced it until last year, and it was awesome. Districts from all over the county come and perform, and it's just a lot of fun. And he detailed the New York City trip that he discussed tonight. And then we also talked about the auditorium because with the new touchscreen, there was some software incompatibility. So we're working on that, and hopefully we'll have the funding to update the software needed for the new touchscreen. And then lastly, Doug Jones joined us from the athletics department. And we talked about all the various senior nights, and we're going to in the future condense them back into one senior night instead of each sport having a senior night. We'll just do them on homecoming football evening. And we discussed all the pink games that are occurring. And again, there are so many repetitive events that we talked about consolidating them. Uniforms was a big topic of discussion, and we're talking about how to clean them and keep inventory and make sure they don't walk away because they seem to disappear every year. So we're putting some strategies in place, hopefully, to either keep them or have students compensate for lost or missing uniforms. We discussed the potential need for a new PA system on the turf, a scoreboard on the soccer field, and then we discussed utilizing, I believe most coaches are supposed to either utilize Parent Square or Final Forms to communicate to parents and students, because some of them are using different apps, and some parents are trying to navigate 3-4 different apps to monitor coaching communication, but we're trying to limit it just to those two so that it's easier for everyone. And lastly, we talked about an avenue for viewers to identify sporting event results the very next day. So someone came up, I think Doug actually mentioned the high school sports stats. It's a website. And so we've now linked that on our athletics page on our website. So if anyone wants to look at scores the day after, they can just pop right on the website and jump on that. So that was the majority of extracurricular committee discussion.
Now the stats, are they certain level? I think that's one thing we didn't answer for the J.
Varsity only.
Varsity.
Yeah.
I've been on the site, but it's not as current as they like it to be. It's about 2 days. When I follow it, it's like 2 days behind.
Well, they said that all coaches are responsible the evening of the event. They have to jump online and put their stats in there, so it should be updated. It was updated when I was on there. It took me a couple minutes to figure out how to navigate it once I learned it.
Who was on that committee? Mike, were you there? Mike
Mike
Makuzak and Lynn.
I was there, Mr. Eisenberg was also there.
And who?
Mr. Eisenberg.
Okay.
It was myself, Mr. Makuzak, and CJ.
Okay.
School Boards Institute, there was a meeting up at BOCES on September 30th. And Catherine Gavitt from Ferraro brand law firm was there, and she detailed some legal updates on student discipline, DEI topics, audits, and student cell phone policies. So she just reviewed some of the legal updates. And as I said, I have a copy of that if anyone's interested. I can shoot you an email.
Yeah,
I like that, yeah.
I'll email it to us.
There was an excellent, you're probably aware of this. There was an excellent presentation about 2 weeks ago in Albany in regards to cell phone usage. I think it was put on by NICET. Michelle, you aware of that?
Was it the disconnected?
Yes,
conference? That
yes.
was-
I didn't hear it, but they said it was dynamic.
I missed out on it as well too, although I'm sure there's a.
What was it called again?
Disconnected.
Okay. Maybe we get our hand, I
I'll
haven't
see,
seen,
I'll see.
okay.
So we actually, speaking of that, we actually met a few days ago All the principals, Ms. Babby was in there, Paul DeShavel, social worker, because he's on the youth council, just talking about this issue in schools and how some of the regional schools have already moved forward with banning cell phones. So we're going to put out some information about some parent events at nighttime to talk about this topic. You know, in our hands, this decision may be made for us if the governor, she's not listening to it right now, or on the state listening to it. Issues with cell phones, and there might be a statewide ban. So the decision may be made for us, but either way, we're still exploring and deciding what stuff we need to take to address that.
Mr. Jafune did the presentation at
Who
BOE.
was it?
Diane Jafune,
Oh,
she's the
I know.
president of the presidents. And she gave us an earful, but it was right on. If you can make contact with her,
Absolutely, sure.
she should have something similar to what Catherine Gavin had with the legal issue.
And then lastly, the policy committee meeting that was scheduled for tonight has been postponed, and I will send out something, maybe not later today, maybe tomorrow. Day, but we'll meet soon. And that is it for the subcommittee reports.
Any questions for Mr. Staton? We're good. Move on to superintendent's report, 2024 EPA clean bus rebate.
Yeah, so just like last year, there's another incentive program for electric buses. So if the board would like to move forward with considering the purchase of an electric bus at the cost of a diesel bus, please let Charlie or me know as soon as possible, because we can carry over that grant from last year. We can take a straw poll if you want. If anybody's interested, let me know. If I hear crickets, I understand. Is that interest from you, Mr.
No, I was curious. He was interested as I was.
Mr. Staton, can you hear me?
Yep.
I viewed a presentation last week, I think it was, and I think we're all aware that in 2027, under the current rules, we will have to start buying electric buses. And I recognize the board's position and most of New York State's position on this, but it is something eventually, unless things change at the state level, and hopefully they do, I guess, you know, we're going to have to start buying electric buses. So I guess I would ask the board to think about it a little bit more. If I can get that presentation, I think they were going to email it to all of us. I'll send it to you, Mr. Staton, and then, because it's kind of like, you know, 2027 seems like a long ways away, but it's really not right now. So as we start the budget, we'll talk about it some more, but it's something that unless things change at the state level, all school districts are going to start paying the price for these electric buses, and they are not cheap.
I think we just had more questions than we had answers. So hopefully whatever material you have might answer some of those questions, Charlie.
Sure thing. Yep.
You know, obviously, you know, being able to reach students in some of the areas that we have, given the landscape of our area, was one of our.
Yep. Absolutely.
Was a concern.
It's wonderful to have a bus, but if they can't pick up a student, then it's not going to do us very much use.
Absolutely. Yep. I will get you information and just keep a somewhat open mind, I guess I'd ask. Thank you.
I know I've heard a lot of discussion about hopefully you know, a lot of districts are hoping the timeline gets relaxed a little bit down the road, but as you said, they're still holding as far as now to 2027.
We're not aware of any schools that have started that yet.
Not to my knowledge. No.
But to Charlie's point, we don't want to whatever our opinion is on it. We don't want to wait till the next second either.
Right,
Because
because
we're stuck, then we're in bad shape.
right, because right now the program allows us to purchase, as I said, a diesel bus, $400,000 diesel bus at the cost. I'm sorry, electric bus at the cost of a diesel bus right now.
And that price might not be there
Exactly.
in 1 year.
But we have to figure out the infrastructure in order to store it and charge it.
Yeah, but we had Charlie and I and Adam Crossford met with a gentleman, a company last year from Cornish that provided a lot of that information. There's a lot of support on that as well. You know, that's what Charlie said, just something to keep in the background. Some of the upcoming events on campus that I just want to remind everyone of: October 17th, we have Erin Gruel and one of her students, Tony, from the Freedom Riders. They'll be on campus speaking to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders during the daytime, and then they'll do a parent and student event that evening. Middle school, and Jane Land, graduate of Sequoia Valley, who's a published author and the Freedom Writer. She'll be here to read her entry into that.
Dave, just a question.
Sure.
She mentioned that she was gonna have that broadcast on Parents Square. Did that happen yet?
I'm
just
just
curious.
curious because I thought I think I put something out for her. I think I put something out on Thursday.
Did you guys receive it? Because I read it. So.
I received
I
a
would
lot
love
of
to see
things.
us
Yes.
try to really push and promote this, because Abby and I did this last year. It was fantastic. I have it in my calendar. We fully intend on going again. And I think, David, you were there last year.
Yep.
And I feel like the turnout was okay, but I would love to see, you know, a higher number of students and parents. And we really, really liked it. It was fantastic.
Okay.
It lasted a little past my bedtime, but it was really good.
A little after 7.
9.
So yeah, then on a Parent Square on Wednesday, and I believe Tammy Purrington was going to put another Parent Square out this week.
Maybe something on our Facebook. Maybe we could do something on the Facebook.
The only thing we heard is that last year, a lot of parents heard about it after the fact.
Okay.
But I think we've done our homework now, so we should get words out.
Yeah.
If they know about it and choose not to come, we can
Right.
understand that, but if they
Right.
find out after the fact, it just please avoid it.
And I think
But
one of the
we're good.
reasons that Abby had mentioned it is because Mrs. Purrington does the yearbook committee and Abby's on the yearbook committee. So I think that there's been conversations taking place after school in the yearbook committee, and Abby came home last week after and was like, Mom, that Freedom Writers thing is coming up. So, yeah.
It's got the inside scoop.
Oh, yes. It was fantastic. We really loved it.
And we usually get about 400 viewers on the replay of the board meeting. So if they all tell 2 people, the community will all know about it. So
Do you get that, man?
did I say 400?
Yes.
I might have exaggerated a bit. We'll send out another Parent Square, and we'll send out a
It'd be nice to know.
Yeah, I feel like the Facebook page is going well.
Oh, yeah.
I think, you know, I mean, a lot of the middle-aged parents are on Facebook.
A lot of the high school students are on Facebook.
That's good. But yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Okay. October 18th, that's this Friday, is the trick or treat street in the elementary school. I believe it's 5:30 to 6:30. And they bumped it up a week because of the Harlem Wizards basketball game on October 28th. So PTO is sponsoring both of those events. So on the 28th, we're having assembly during the day for elementary and middle school students. One of the Harlem Wizards actually goes and talks to the students about healthy lifestyle habits, and they also obviously promote the game. And so tickets are on sale for that as well online for the Harlem Wizards game. And then the very next day at the high school, Mr. Reed is hosting Scott Fitch for us, an assembly, all school assembly called Pause Before You Post. And just a little bit about Mr. Fitch, he coaches the U17 USA national basketball team. He's delivered his speech to over 500 schools on the impact of social media. And he talks about the importance of kindness and respect. And then once you post something, it never really goes away. It can always be found online. So just be careful and consider about what you're posting. And I believe Mr. Madden's going to put some students over there, right? 17th grade, excellent. And then lastly, the topic campus signage. Board, I believe you're all aware, you've seen the messages about the banner. We're looking to place banners around the campus with a red hawk and some new signage at the entries to the fields regarding limiting pets on the fields.
Yes, that sign was great. I like that.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So,
Mike, was that you ready?
No, sir.
take credit.
Right there.
David?
Yeah, because there's a pet sign out there it's so long to read and complicated, and we just need something short and sweet
Right,
with a red hawk.
perfect.
And that is it for the superintendent report.
I'd just like to add that the Clayville Fire Department did an exceptional job with fire prevention. that last week, I think?
Yeah.
They did an excellent job.
I just want to add, there were a couple other districts here. I mean, Playville facilitated the most of it, but I know the chief from the Sequoia Valley Fire Department was also here, Sequoia, I think another one. But yeah, students, staff loved it. So informative, so necessary.
What's the status with the campus management?
So we received quotes from, I think, 3 or 4 different organizations. So now we just need to look at Scott Gillette and I have those quotes, so we just need to.
Those would go on the light post?
Yes, we'll probably buy 24. There are price points at 12 and 24 purchasing. So I think we're looking at like 30. I think we identified 37 light poles on campus, but some of them are unused or low traffic areas. So we're gonna identify the 24 high profile poles and then order them.
Move on to old business.
Old business, just an update on Spiritware, the PTO online store recently opened up. So those, if you order anything, they should be in by the holidays. The sports boosters link is active again. They did 1 round of purchasing already. They opened their link up again for a couple more weeks. And then the music department will open an online store shortly. So there will be a lot of opportunities for individuals to purchase.
Okay,
sportswear.
Mike, help me with this one, and only because hopefully you people hear the same thing. I think it's a little confusing to parents who'd like to buy something. There's too much diversity, depending on who you buy from.
Well, so there's several different groups who are selling certain things, and I mean, I think choice is good. I mean, people have the option to buy wherever they want, and everyone has different stuff. Like for the seniors, it's a different garment or a different item than other people are selling. I think it's pretty cool, but that's just me. And it doesn't matter to me.
And also the PTO is offering some heavier.
Correct. Tackle 12.
Yeah, tackle 12.
Back in the day, help me out, Ms. Bev, they used to sell hoodies that were amazing. They were bulletproof. They were amazing, thick, and they were great. And that kind of went away, but those are back. I have the one that I bought when my nephew was in kindergarten, still a little bit faded. But it's like as you wash it and as you go along with it, it gets softer. So I think that price point may be high for people, but there are people who want to pay that money, and there are people who can't, and there's options for them as well. And that's correct, right? I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people should have the option. If somebody wants to pay $65 for a hoodie, they should be able to. And if you can't, then you can grab one for $30 as well. I mean, I don't know.
But you can't, if you go to that group and there's a $65, you want to pay less, you've got to go to the group that's selling that.
I'm not sure. I think I know so. Tackle 12 is going to be more expensive. Absolutely. I think it's 75.
And who sells that?
I don't know.
That's the PTO.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. And then the music department, they incorporate the music logo and the words music in their shirts. And some of the students and parents want that specific Spiritware to show that they're part of the music and arts department.
And then some of the sports areas, Tony, not to make it more difficult, but they've also got their own stores with maybe their soccer or field hockey or track logos.
So basically, there's something for everyone.
Yes, but you got to go to the right source. That's
Do you need help ordering?
No. I'm just sharing.
One source to rule them all.
People see someone someone who wears something that is interesting to them, they like.
Yeah.
You almost have to ask the person, where did you get it? Because if you go to the other three, you've got to search. You've got to search music, you got to search sports boosters, you got to search PTO to find out which organization handles that apparel. You understand?
Could we create
I don't know where any of the links were.
I was just gonna say, could we create a Spiritware section where all the links and it says like whose store is whose, and then we.
I think there are parents out there that are confused.
I'd like them to send home a paper form and I'll fill it out and I'll send it in with my check, okay?
I think you're
You want a
right.
picture
But
of the
Patty,
item?
I don't think you're alone. I don't think you're alone.
Are the ones that PTO have now kind of the same material and quality as the ones that have names on the back?
That's correct.
Okay.
So those
Those
I
are
mean,
like
back then,
$75.
yes, they used to be like 55 or 60,
We
yes.
have a couple of the older
But-
ones, yeah.
And I don't know why So what's?
No, but I just saying, because I know you and Lynn were very involved with that.
Well, we just wanted to make sure that people had options. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that $30 is a reasonable price for some people. And some people wanna pay more for a different thing, and that's fine too, but I think it's good, it's options for everybody. Obviously, if you're a musician or you're in the music club, you wanna rock it out with a saxophone or whatever they have on their, whatever their logo is for music. Just like the seniors, you know, my son's not gonna get a seniors 2025 hoodie unless he steals my daughter's when she's, you know,
Right.
away. So I think it's specific for each group, but I do understand how that could possibly be confusing. So
I think Patty,
Yeah.
she gave me the answer I was looking for. She's a board member, she hears us talk, but yet she doesn't know in which direction to go to purchase
So
something.
you would like some
That's
type
the
of,
common
like,
sense.
an option to have something where all your options are listed and you can click, or possibly print.
I think we need to do something.
Yeah.
I know it's a first year.
That's okay.
It's a transition
If all
time,
of the
but
links were located in one area on the webpage where it said like Spiritwear, and you could go there and it said like PTO, and you could click on it and see their store, and Sports Boosters, and you could see their store, would that be helpful?
Yeah, that's what you're doing. Yeah, and we can work on that. Yeah, no, we can work on that. The only concern is sometimes these links are only open for a couple of weeks because they close them, so they get ordered it. But we'll try to get
that's
them all in one
what you
spot.
just had something, somebody sent something now.
Yeah,
Said this is the last day or two to order.
but I'll say, I love it. I love the Spiritwear. I love the looks of them. I love wearing them out. You know, the other day I had mine on, my wife and I went to the mall, and I saw a kid coming out of the mall with his. I said, "Hey kid, cool Red Hawk." It just gave us an opportunity to. Otherwise, I don't know that I would necessarily even recognize him because I saw the shirt first. It's just okay. Just that pride in wearing it now. I love it.
I brought it up for people that had questions. And then I
Took
think-
care of you,
He's a
Patty.
man.
I think there's a bit of a question. Alright.
Check out.
Anything else on their old business?
No, sir.
We'll move on to new business. I will read 7.1 through 7.26. Am I correct? 7.1 is looking for the approval of our audit report for the school year 2023-24. 7.2 is looking for the approval of a leave of absence. 7.3 is looking for the approval and appointment of a long-term substitute nurse. 7.4 is looking for the approval of the permanent appointment of a bus driver. 7.5 is looking for the approval of a permanent appointment of custodians. 7.6 is looking for the approval and appointment of a substitute teacher. 7.7 is looking for the approval of the appointment of a substitute teacher. 7.8 is looking for the approval of an appointment of a bus attendant. 7.9 is looking for the approval and appointment of a CSE assistant. 7.10 is looking for the approval of a resignation of 2 extracurricular advisors. 7.11 is looking for the approval and appointment of extracurricular advisors. 7.12 is looking for the approval and appointment of extracurricular fund officers. 7.13 is looking for the approval and appointment of Dignity Act coordinators. 7.14 is looking for the approval of a resolution of the lead evaluator certification teachers. 7.15 is looking for the approval and appointment of our immunization service agreement. 7.16 is looking for the approval of a bowling coach. 7.17 is looking for the approval of a sports combination in the sport of wrestling. 7.18 is looking for the approval of a sport combination in reference to hockey. 7.19 is looking for the approval of policy updates as stated. 7.20 is looking for the approval of a resolution to participate in the OMNIA cooperative purchasing. 7.21 is looking for the approval of the sale of surplus vehicles. 7.22 is looking for the approval of our minutes from September 10th, 2024. 7.23 is looking for the approval to accept the extra classroom activity report. 7.24 is looking for the approval of the treasurer's report of our balances dated September 30th, 2024. 7.25 is looking for the approval of a resolution authorizing our payment of bills as approved by our claims auditor. signed September 17th, 2024, and October 2nd, 2024. 7.26 is looking for the approval of our Committee on Special Education recommendation. Does anyone have any questions or concerns?
I'll just say very quickly, you know, I'm glad to hear the audit report turned out so favorable. Best wishes to Tatum Zampano on her maternity leave. We're excited about some of the new hires, the permanent appointments of our laborers. The custodians. They were laborers previously. They changed to custodians. Now they're permanently appointed. So good for them. We're excited about some of the new hires. McKenna Shepherd, the new school nurse for this school year.
Is she this grade? Is she recent graduate?
No, so it's
Okay.
It's another McKenna Shepherd. Yeah. Same family though. Michael Flagg being appointed in a couple positions before he begins with us. And but again, just we got a couple new hires and we're excited about adding those new staff members and those permanent appointments. Oh, and we thank Tanya Sullivan and Susan McKinney for their work as handshakes coordinators. And we're excited to add Laura Hoffman and Luisa Cardillo as the new handshake advisors. So a lot of good, exciting stuff happening here. So. Oh, sorry. If I leave somebody out, I'm gonna feel bad about it. So I do want to recognize too Richard Alvages. He's one of the new drivers. He's been a great addition in our transportation department. And if I forgot you, I apologize.
I'd like to comment on 7.5. It's a pleasure to see that we have employees who are remaining with the district and becoming permanent appointments. Seems for a while there we were turning over quite often, and here we are appointing people to permanent positions, which shows their longevity. And Mrs. Goodman, I will abstain from 7.11. Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
A quick question.
Yes, Mrs. Wyden.
7.16.
Yeah.
Mr. Vicker is our interim Spanish teacher in the high school.
Yes.
It's great to see that he is going to be coaching bowling. I have heard nothing but good things from lots of kids. They really, really like it.
Good. Thank you for that feedback. We begin.
Anything else? I have a motion to approve 7. And we go, would be 7.1 through 7.26. Mr. Sacco, second. Mrs. Collins, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention. Okay, miscellaneous topics, board members?
Got a little speech prepared.
You're on.
So, I just wanted to thank David. You know, Mike was in attendance. Lynn put together an amazing squad. So Sequoia hosted the Mohawk Valley Challengers special needs football game. Is it not the Saturday? We just had the one prior. So my dad worked for a school district for 30-something years, and so he knows a lot about how schools operate, and he's seen it all. And even sometimes when I have like generic questions about something, I'll be like, hey Dad, you know, we were talking about this. He was so impressed with our school. He was so impressed with you, Dave, that he said, you know what, Patty, said Sequoia is really lucky to have him. And I'm like, oh, we know. The game, I thought the turnout was great. Your daughter and her friends were absolutely adorable. I think it's amazing that a group of 9th graders who could have been doing a plethora of other things on a Saturday night took the time, the initiative to get their matching costumes and to come and cheer at the drop of a dime. And so thank you to your daughter. Thank you to the girls. CJ's not here, but she was in the concession stand. David, you were all over the place. I think I called you like 4 times during the game, but it was wonderful to see Sequoia come together for this game. It's really important to my dad. It was really important to me, and Sequoia made it important too. And I just love that. I'm grateful to be in this school district. And my dad, he was like, if Sequoia would have us again, I would love to come back next year. So that's my whole speech, but thank you to everyone. David, thank you for all of your hard work. Thank you to you know, your daughter and her girlfriends for, you know, putting that squad together. It just, it was very, I was very proud of our school. I was like the mom, you know what I mean? The school's my baby, you know, but it really was just an amazing turnout. And I just love to see it. So thank you to everyone.
I think an important point too is the people who are pushing to have that happen were also getting dirty during the event and getting things done during the events. It's not just saying, oh, we should have this, we should do this, and then they're like, you know, home or wherever. They were there getting it done. And the Utica University dance team was there.
Yeah.
And the nicknames like the Wolfman, the nicknames of the kids, I thought
It
was really great.
And you know, I will say too, like there were a lot of things, you know, in the past years, they've always done their homecoming game at the college in Herkimer, age triple. And so there were a lot of growing pains with changing it. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Steve was one of the referees.
Yeah.
My dad has, you know, referees that generally do it every time. My brother was actually the other one. The referees canceled on him. The announcers canceled on him. So it was my dad's grandson who just graduated from high school was announcing the first game. But there were a lot of things that kind of happened last minute. And we were just able to pull through and just kind of reconfigure things and still, you know, make it so successful. And then Lynn, you know, you got the sports boosters. You got them to open up the concession, and I heard made some great money, which is awesome, you know, for our school. And then it was one last thing that my dad had to worry about, because generally when they do their game, they try to run their own little concession. So, but yeah, it was a beautiful time. And, you know, and I know my dad is super grateful for everyone at Sequoia that helped make that possible.
Is it possible that we could just write a letter expressing to them that Sequoia Valley is available in future? They don't have to go back to Herkimer?
Well,
Maybe they just need to know that. I mean, traditionally they play Herkimer.
Yeah,
Herkimer High School?
normally, the college,
The
normally, I don't know how, because most of the challengers players, these kids are from Valley schools. My dad lives in Mohawk, and so when the program, you know, started 10 years ago, it was just a very small group of kids that were from the Valley. And one of the hopes that my dad really, you know, had was trying to bring it out of the Valley and hopefully maybe recruit some kids from this area. I mean, we have one student who is one of the participants on the older kids team that's from Sequoia. You know, he was really just kind of hoping to, you know, move in a little bit of a different direction to see if he could recruit people from outside of the Valley. So, yeah.
No, I told her that absolutely we would welcome them back with open arms. I thought it was a great event. It was inspiring. You know, kudos to all those law enforcement.
I know.
Individuals who play both games.
Several of our varsity boys football players were
Yes,
there
that's
to welcome
right.
them to their turf too.
And then I don't know who it was. It was either number 28 or number 70.
It was number 78, because I noticed he stayed the whole time.
He did. So, and nothing bad at all, but like, there was probably like what, maybe 7 or 8 varsity guys that brought wore their jerseys and were standing there and they were cheering, and that was wonderful. But that one number 78, when I think the rest of them went over to that little field on the side just past our fence, and they were playing football and stuff. But that number 78, I mean, his parents should pat themselves on the back, because he stood there on that sideline by himself for the entire stretch of both games, cheering the kids on. Like that to me, like that was so beautiful. So I don't know who he is, but number 78, just commendable.
And also too, in sports boosters, you know, we really had no idea what type of crowd, because we just heard it was usually friends and family of the players. But so many Sequoia Valley residents who had no connection really to the game just came out to watch and show support. Yeah. And that was awesome.
I mean, it did kind of die out, but it also was getting freezing. That was like the first really cold night we've had. And it is kind of a long stretch. But you know, that initial, like when all the players did their parade, and then they came through the gate, and then you just saw all of these people flood in. And I'm looking up at the bleachers, and I'm like, this is amazing. I mean, there were a ton of people there. So it was fantastic.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yes, Mr. Seckel.
So not to continue to puff up people, but the which way to the 5K, slam dunk once again.
It's great turnout.
Yeah,
Really
great
great
turnout. I know there's a little bit of issue because of Sunday and then Saturday and how it conflicts, but I think Sunday's great. It was great. So thanks, Tony, for the foundation.
Thank you. We're good.
Yep, we're good. It's,
Okay, we're on to public participation, public to be heard. Our guest,
I'm good, thank you.
okay, Mrs. Babby, always welcome.
so just so you know, this is Nicole, not Becker, VE, recently married. She's teacher in the middle school, but she's also conducting her administrative internship this year. So she's been in some of the meetings, and she's actually leading our absentee / chronic absenteeism initiative. So she's taking that over.
Is that Miss Becker, the 7th grade? Sixth grade. My son is Alexander Sacco. Him and the boys, they talk about you all the time.
Yeah.
Oh,
And Owen and Will, they all talk about us.
thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, this is VD now.
Thank you. Okay, we need a motion. We're gonna go into executive session.
If we could, to discuss negotiations.
Sure can. Need a motion? Mr. Curtelli, second. Mr. Sacco, all in favor? All right, we stand adjourned for executive session at 7 o'clock. Thank you, Charlie.